Welcome to the Blackley Creek Project Podcast, Season 1, Episode 3, Through the Looking Glass, starring our American and British hosts, and our Australian and Canadian investigators. August 23, 2023.
Hello, and welcome back to Blackley Creek. At some point, should we give our actual names? I feel like we're being very impersonal with our audience.
I suppose that would be the polite thing to do.
Meh, let's not do it today. Just continue to refer to me as your American host.
And that makes me your British host.
And that's the full list of important people.
I feel like you may have intentionally left a few people off the list. And we don't even have proper names. Only General Anonymous has gotten a name, and I have to believe that his name is not actually General Anonymous. Like Mr. and Mrs. Anonymous had a child and named him like David or something like that. David Anonymous. That's absurd.
You're all very important to me. Maybe not important enough to have proper names. And anyway, if someone is not on my tax return, how important can they be?
I'm not on your tax return. I'm a grown man with my own life. Wait, am I on your tax return? Isn't that tax fraud?
Let's discuss this later and fix it in post-production.
I won't go to jail for you.
Well, you certainly won't go to jail with me. David Anonymous and I agree that prison is not on our bucket lists.
Moving on, have we heard anything from the two separate, independent, and probably competitive investigators you have sent into the middle of nowhere Peru to track down the aliens?
I will have you know that I have a call with them scheduled for just a few minutes from now.
Both of them? At the same time?
Why not? What could possibly go wrong?
I can think of a few things. But that is probably the best possible scenario. There is no good reason to keep them separate and in the dark. They would both probably appreciate having assistance in what has to be a thankless task.
Yes, Operation Thunderdome is going according to plan.
Isn't that where two men enter, one man leaves?
Yes, but I prefer to think of it as two non-specific persons enter, one non-specific person leaves. I am progressive, you know.
You're casually referencing what can only be described as a death match in a gladiator arena, but you consider yourself progressive.
You're right, maybe I'm a true centrist.
I don't think that's actually how political centrism works.
Maybe it should be.
Hello, have we joined the conversation at an inopportune moment?
Yes, we would hate to interrupt anything important.
You know we don't do anything important here.
That's certainly not what we tell our sponsors.
That's actually a good question your offhand comment has spurred. Who exactly is sponsoring our misadventures?
I'm not really in a position to say. I don't want the IRS to hear me say it out loud.
Don't you have to declare it on your taxes?
You should know since you're on there yourself. But enough about me. I see you two have met. Was it the rom-com meet cute that I hoped it would be?
There was no meet cute, and her arrival was not a surprise. One of the local elders told me that a voice from the air had told him that I would soon be joined by a fellow traveler seeking the same wisdom that was seeking.
That's pretty heavy stuff, man. What else did this elder tell you?
He said the voice belonged to this rather annoying, self-absorbed man who was apparently the principal participant in a podcast.
Wow, that is an amazing coincidence that another podcast is talking about you and your journeys. Is this like a spiritual podcast?
It's you. It was your podcast. You talked about it on your own podcast.
Wow, that is an amazing endorsement that remote Peruvians take time away from avoiding aliens to listen to this podcast. I hope he took the time to rate and comment.
I do suppose that is one way to look at it.
And anyway, he knew I was coming because I called him after I got off the line with you. We've worked together for years. It's a much smaller world than you seem to realize. Everyone knows everyone else.
Yeah, I guess that checks out.
And it turns out he is my long-lost twin brother.
We were separated at birth to protect us both from family drama.
Okay, this time I know you're telling an intentional lie with the sole purpose of making me question reality. I'm pretty sure I have seen this movie before.
At this point, I think everyone has seen this movie. You don't have to worry about any spoiler alerts.
I know. Who hasn't seen Parent Trap? I mean the Lindsay Lohan version. The Hayley Mills version is good, too.
I think they were referencing Star Wars.
Is that the one that has the guy with the pointy ears?
I'm going to hazard a maybe, but I'm going to ask for clarification before saying yes.
And he has a catchphrase?
Again, I'm going to need more context before agreeing.
And he can read people's minds?
Okay, for real, I don't know if you mean Yoda, who is in Star Wars, or Spock, who is in Star Trek.
Look, since we're on the general topic of aliens, can we cut this digression short and tell you what we've found here in Peru?
Yes, please, that would be wonderful.
Make it so.
I'm sorry.
That's the catchphrase. Make it so.
I'm choosing to ignore you.
It turns out there may be some truth to the stories about aliens.
Well, that's a development I honestly did not expect.
We didn't expect it either, but all of the evidence so far points to that as the most likely explanation.
I knew the illegal miner story sounded ridiculous.
Oh, there are plenty of illegal miners in the area. That's actually a key piece of, well, I hesitate to say evidence, but it is a clue. The illegal miners are having the same encounters, but they're not asking for government intervention. For obvious reasons.
I suppose it is awkward to ask for an intervention to help keep up your illegal ravaging of natural resources.
Yes, very. So the miners have largely paused their operations in the remote areas, and have relocated to what they consider to be safe areas.
And we took that as an opportunity to see what's going on for ourselves.
We convinced some of the locals to take us pretty deep into the jungle to one of their mining camps. We kept the receipt, of course.
Thank you.
The camp was largely deserted, but they left it in a condition where they could start back up. Sort of in a standby condition.
They're hoping it blows over pretty quickly?
I assume so.
Did you go into the mine? Is it that kind of mine? I have in my head that it's a mineshaft and you can walk into it, but I guess I should ask that question first.
Yes and no. They're primarily working in strip mining, so we can walk around on the upper level of the strip mine, but not down into the pit.
I see.
But we saw something.
What did you see?
Down in the bottom of the pit. A silvery dome protruding from the dirt.
Are you serious?
We are.
Did you get pictures?
We did not.
You're kidding me. How did you not get pictures? The village elder is listening to the podcast. We need to send him some merch, by the way, but you don't have a camera on you?
We did. That's the thing. We had cameras. But they just didn't work.
Oh, this sounds intriguing.
I thought you would think so.
Wait, why is that intriguing? They forgot to charge their phones or whatever and you're all excited about it?
It's intriguing because that's one of the classic and well-known characteristics of close encounters. Electronic equipment suddenly stops working correctly.
So you're saying that their lack of photographic evidence of aliens is in fact direct evidence of aliens?
I suppose when you put it that way it does sound suspect. I guess at best that is circumstantial. What happened next?
We had to leave so we could make it back to the village before nightfall. The guides weren't comfortable staying in the jungle near the mines after dark. There might be aliens, and there are definitely miners, and neither option sounds particularly welcoming.
Wait, did we ever clear up whether you two are brother and sister?
We are not.
Thank you, proceed.
We returned to the village. We had made video and photo recordings on the way to the mine and on the way back. When we got back to the village, we reviewed them, but we found that as we approached the mine, the recording quality decreased to the point of uselessness. As we returned to the village, the quality improved. We can't explain any of it.
Fascinating. Simply fascinating. So what is your next step in the investigation?
We're going back to the mine tomorrow. We're leaving early and we're hoping that the miners won't have returned yet.
Are you going to take a pad of paper and a pencil so you can draw what you see? You know, since your cameras don't work.
That is actually a good suggestion.
I don't know why you all think I'm an idiot.
It's because you're typically an idiot.
That was uncalled for.
Yes, I suppose that's true. I owe you an apology.
Accepted. Now I have exciting news for both of you.
What is that?
You're going to Vegas.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, I'll try to speak more clearly. You are going to Vegas.
Yes, we heard you, but why are we going to Vegas?
There were reports of tall aliens in Las Vegas a couple of months ago. I figure the chances of illegal miners starting a mining operation in some guy's backyard in Vegas are pretty slim. I wouldn't bet on it. Do you get the joke? I made a gambling joke because it is Las Vegas.
Yes, I get the joke. And I understand the justification and reasoning for going to Las Vegas. Why didn't we start there?
Well, the main reason is that the Peru story just happened, so it had more urgency. But if there's something to the Peru story, Let's see what we can track down for the Vegas story, too.
That's a surprisingly reasonable perspective.
Agree. When do we leave?
I suppose as soon as you can get back to the airport there in Peru. Obviously, check out the mine again. If something bad happens, please make it the aliens and not the miners so that no one will try to ransom you.
But what if they try to probe us?
I'm willing to take that risk.
Thank you for joining the Blackley Creek Project podcast. This podcast was made using voiceover from Speechify. While the voices are computer-generated, the script comes straight from a human brain and is lovingly handcrafted by painstakingly typing using human fingers. We don't have a Patreon page, or really any page, up and running yet, but please leave feedback and tell your friends. Check back on Saturday, August 26th, for the next podcast, to see just where this is going, and to see if we get to hear from General Anonymous again. It's been a while.
Yes, it has.